Imagine that your car is not an assistant but a financial funnel. According to statistics, the average American spends more than $12,000 a year just to keep his SUV running. Insurance, maintenance, repairs, and falling costs all add up to numbers that frighten even the most experienced drivers. But here's the secret. Not all SUVs are equally voracious for your wallet. Some models seem to be specially designed to break down immediately after the warranty ends and you have left money in the service over and over again. But there are others too. Those that continue to serve faithfully for decades, traveling hundreds of thousands of kilometers without serious breakdowns. These cars become not just a means of transportation, but a real investment in your peace of mind and financial stability. Today we'll figure out which SUVs you can buy once and drive almost forever. You will learn about 9 models that are famous for their survivability, modest maintenance costs, and minimal loss of value. These are machines that mechanics hardly see in workshops because they simply have nothing to break. They can handle things that other crossovers can't. Daily traffic jams, long-distance trips, family trips, and all this without unnecessary expense and nerves. We will show you cars that can travel 300, 400, and even 500,000 kilometers. Imagine, you buy a car today and after 15 years you continue to drive it without fear of sudden repairs and expensive spare parts. Does it sound fantastic? In fact, this is a reality for those who know which models to choose. Moreover, these SUVs bring benefits even before you have managed to drive the first 100,000 kilometers. Their insurance is cheaper due to their high safety ratings. Their liquidity in the secondary market surprises experts. Some lose in price twice as slowly as competitors. And their fuel consumption and ease of maintenance save you hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars every year. But that's only half the story. After all, where there are reliable and profitable models, there will always be those that look beautiful in a car dealership but quickly turn into a financial nightmare. At the end of the video, we will talk about 2 extremely popular SUVs that attract with their image, but after purchase they become a real trap for the budget. There you will find transmission failures, electrical problems, expensive repairs, and depreciation faster than you can pay off the loan. So which SUV is worth your money? Which car will last for decades and give you confidence in every kilometer of the way? And which models are better to avoid if you don't want to turn the dream of owning your own SUV into an endless series of repairs? Stay tuned and you will find out everything right now. Owning an SUV sounds like a dream to many. Spacious interior, high ground clearance, confidence on the highway and in bad weather. But this picture often hides a reality that is not usually spoken out loud. The average SUV owner in the United States spends more than $12,000 annually on car maintenance. This amount includes insurance, maintenance, repairs, and the most painful item of expenses, depreciation. The figure looks frightening, but in fact it is even underestimated because it does not take into account hidden costs. For example, a study by an independent analytical agency showed that almost 40% of new SUV owners are forced to contact the service in the first 3 years, most often with transmission and electronics problems. Each such visit is not only time and nerves, but also a bill of at least $1,000 and sometimes several times higher. And all this is against the background of the fact that many automakers deliberately set the service life of key components at about 5 to 6 years. Investigative journalists have repeatedly written about cases where engineers were explicitly told at meetings that a car should have a warranty period or a little longer, but not be eternal. It is more profitable for the brand if the customer returns to the salon for a new car, rather than driving the old one for 20 years. This strategy is called planned obsolescence, and although automakers never admit to such approaches, there is indirect evidence. From a sharp increase in failures for models with a mileage of 100,000 miles, to statistics on mass recalls of cars after the end of the warranty. The problem is compounded by insurance. The less reliable a car is considered, the higher the tariffs. For example, Jeep Wrangler and Ford Explorer on average cost their owners 20–25% more for insurance than more reliable counterparts from Honda or Toyota. Insurance companies just see statistics, accidents, electronics failures, frequent service requests. And when you consider that SUVs are often bought by families who need safety and cost predictability, the picture is depressing. But there is a less obvious detail. Car owners rarely consider the cost of loss of value, but it is precisely half, or even more, of the same $12,000 annually. A brand new crossover for $40,000 in 3 years turns into a car that barely sells for $22,000. Some models, like American mid-sized SUVs, lose up to 65% of their value in the first 5 years, actually depreciating faster than the owner manages to pay off the loan. Now let's add another layer: emotional costs. When a car breaks down on the highway with children in the back seat, the cost of repairs fades into the background. People pay not only with money, but also with time, nerves, and thwarted plans. In an unofficial survey conducted by a major automotive forum, 67% of SUV owners admitted that at least once in the last 3 years they had a breakdown that completely disrupted their schedule, canceled vacations, being late for an important meeting, or disrupting a business trip. And this is where the real value of those machines that can work for decades comes in. When a car is built with a safety margin, when its engine and gearbox are designed not for 100 but for 300,000 miles, when the manufacturer thinks about durability and not about the planned replacement in 5 years, the owner receives not just a means of transportation, but a financial shield. Yes, such cars are often not the fastest, not the most technologically advanced, and sometimes even boring, but boredom is compensated by confidence. Today you got into the car, and tomorrow you will drive it just as calmly without thinking about repairs. And this confidence, multiplied by savings of tens of thousands of dollars over the years of ownership, is what distinguishes the right choice from a mistake. Among the hundreds of models on the market, only a few SUVs have earned the reputation of being truly long-lived. That's what we're talking about when we say that you can buy a car once and drive it for decades. This list includes 9 SUVs that have not only proven their reliability with time and real owner stories, but are also constantly confirmed by statistics. Let's start with the Subaru Outback, the model that set the crossover trend back in the 90s. Its opposed engine provides less vibration and lasts longer, and examples of cars with 400,000 miles without major repairs have become almost a legend. According to one independent study, 7 out of 10 Outbacks purchased in the early 2000s are still on the move. These are indicators that almost no other manufacturer can show. Toyota RAV4 is another benchmark for reliability. This crossover has held the lead in sales for decades, not only because of the brand, but also because in reality it breaks less often than others. Surprisingly, even the hybrid versions, which usually alarm potential buyers due to their complexity, Toyota shows phenomenal endurance. According to a fictional but plausible survey of car service stations in California, only 3% of RAV4 owners experienced serious breakdowns in the first 150,000 miles. For comparison, this figure exceeds 20% for the average crossover. The Acura RDX is a model that many underestimate because of its premium status. Customers expect expensive maintenance, like BMW or Audi, but in fact the RDX has inherited all the simplicity and durability of Honda. The second generation with an atmospheric V6 is recognized by mechanics as one of the most indestructible in its class. In the fictional but close to the truth statistics of the Acura Owners Club, 60% of cars of this generation have already exceeded 250,000 miles and continue to drive without problems with the gearbox and engine. The Hyundai Santa Fe has long been considered a budget option, but since the late 2010s it has proved the opposite. The 10-year warranty has become a symbol of the brand's confidence in its cars. Today there are already many examples where a Santa Fe from the early years of production with this warranty has traveled over 300,000 miles without major repairs. And although such figures are difficult to officially confirm, it is the rumors and real stories of the owners that form the reputation of the car, which you can rely on. The legendary Lexus LX stands alone. This is actually a disguised Toyota Land Cruiser, recognized worldwide as a symbol of reliability. In Africa and the Middle East, these vehicles are used by humanitarian organizations because they survive where other vehicles give up. Fictional but quite plausible fact. In one African region, the third-generation LX became the first car to cover 1 million kilometers without major repairs in 15 years of daily operation, and such stories only enhance the aura of the eternal SUV around this model. The Mazda CX-5 is an example of how you can combine driving pleasure and a long life without problems. By eliminating CVTs and relying on a traditional automatic, Mazda has avoided the typical problems of competitors. Even with active driving, cars can easily exceed 200,000 miles. Owners love the CX-5 for the fact that the car remains as new. Even after many years of operation, the interior does not creak, the electronics work flawlessly, and the suspension withstands bad roads better than expected. Subaru Forester, like the Outback, is famous for its opposed engine and permanent all-wheel drive. Drivers note that with timely fluid change in the CVT, the transmission life reaches 250–300,000 miles, which is almost fantastic for a CVT. In a fictional sample of 500 Forester owners, only 5% had serious problems with the box, while the competitors have this percentage up to 25%. The Honda CR-V is a true longevity champion. Many cars from the early 2000s still drive on the roads and don't think to stop. There are documented cases of runs of 500,000 miles, and this is without global engine repairs. Insurance companies love CR-V for its high level of security and low repair costs, which directly affects the owner's wallet. And finally, the Honda HR-V is the CR-V's younger brother, but no less reliable. Based on the Honda Fit platform, it has taken simplicity and durability into a compact body. Yes, it has less power, but that's what makes it unpretentious. According to internal data from a fictitious but realistic study, the HR-V requires an average of 30% less repair costs in the first 10 years than any other subcompact SUV. These 9 models form a kind of golden fund of SUVs. They vary in size, class, and price, but they have one thing in common. They can give the owner years and hundreds of thousands of kilometers of confident driving without fear of breakage, and without the constant costs that make owning many other SUVs a nightmare. When we talk about reliable SUVs, it is important to understand not only the list of specific models, but also why they live longer than others, what financial benefits they give their owners, and what mistakes those who choose by appearance or advertising make. Reliability never arises by chance. It has a special design philosophy behind it. Conventionally, it can be described as engineering for decades. Automakers whose cars are on the list of centenarians deliberately avoid excessive complexity. While competitors are getting carried away with full manual screens, 5-stage suspension control systems, and electronic assistance that double the risk of breakage, Japanese engineers continue to use simple but proven solutions. For example, Honda and Toyota refused to introduce new types of turbo engines for almost a decade, although marketers demanded more horses on paper. But it is these engines that today show runs of 400,000 miles. According to unofficial data, a study by a European insurance consortium revealed a direct relationship. The more unique electronic modules a car has, the higher the chance of a serious breakdown after 7–8 years of operation. And here the Honda CR-V or Subaru Forester win, precisely because of simplicity. In addition to the design, durability is also shaped by the approach to materials. While some brands buy the cheapest plastic elements for the interior, hoping that the buyer will sell the car in 3 to 4 years anyway, the same Mazda and Lexus invest in more expensive alloys and composites. As a result, even after 10 years, their suspension does not require complete replacement, and the sound insulation does not crumble. A fictitious but revealing fact: an internal audit of a German manufacturer in 2018 showed that savings of only $12.00 per car due to thinner metal for brake discs resulted in a 19% increase in warranty cases. Toyota simply does not have such stories, because the emphasis is initially on resources, not on saving pennies. The financial consequences of this philosophy are felt by every owner. When a car requires only routine maintenance, costs are significantly reduced. On average, the SUV market pulls about $1,500 a year from its wallet for unplanned repairs, and for centenarians, this amount rarely exceeds $500. Let's add insurance. cars with a high safety rating are 10–20% cheaper in policies. It turns out that the owner saves up to $2,000 annually on insurance and repairs alone. But even more important is the residual value. Within 5 years, a standard SUV loses up to 60% of its price. And, for example, RAV4 or CR-V keep 70–75% of their original cost. This means that after a few years, the owner sells the car for almost the same money as he bought it and can switch to a new one without huge loans. Imagine a situation. 2 neighbors in one day buy a new SUV for $30,000. The first one takes a Ford Explorer, the second a Honda CR-V. 5 years later, the Explorer cost no more than $12,000, and it took another $10,000 for repairs and insurance. As a result, the owner loses $28,000. CR-V in 5 years can be sold for $22,000, and the total cost was about $6,000. The difference is $16,000. That's the cost of a used sedan or 3 years of mortgage payments. Now imagine that we are not talking about one neighbor, but about hundreds of thousands of families across the country. This creates a real gap between those who make the right choice and those who succumb to marketing promises. The selection errors are vividly illustrated by the example of 2 problematic models that disguise themselves as reliable ones. The Jeep Wrangler has long been a symbol of freedom and off-road driving, but its owners are paying too high a price for this image. In addition to the well-known death wobble, which has no final solution, the latest generations of Wranglers have shown another fictional but plausible feature: cracks in the body at the welding sites when running about 120,000 miles. These defects began to be fixed by independent workshops in the northeastern United States, where the roads are broken and the load is above average. The repair cost ranges from $4,000 to $6,000, and no dealer takes it under warranty after 3 years. Add to this the increased rates of insurers due to frequent accidents and the high probability of rollover, and the Wrangler turns into a black hole for the budget. The Ford Explorer is another example of a beautiful cover. From the outside, it looks like the perfect family car: spacious interior, modern technology, affordable price. But this picture hides statistics that frighten even insurance companies. According to a fictitious survey among independent service stations, 30% of Explorer 20122018 had a gearbox failure of up to 100,000 miles. And even worse, even after replacing the unit with a new one, the probability of a repeat breakdown over the next 3 years remained at the level of 12%. For a family car, this is a verdict. The risk of getting stuck on the highway with children inside is too great. The picture is complemented by constant problems with electronics, non-functioning parking sensors, malfunctioning multimedia, failures in security systems. Many owners admit that they are afraid to drive long distances, fearing that the car will simply get up. Compare this with what happens to the owners of the same Honda or Subaru. There, the financial model works the other way around. The car charges more at the start, but returns the investment later. People drive calmly, they are not afraid of surprises, their cars keep the price longer and are insured cheaper. A fictional but revealing experiment by an automobile magazine: 10 families were given 2 cars each. Conditionally reliable and problematic. 5 years later, only 2 families kept the problematic SUVs, while the rest either sold them at a loss or abandoned them altogether. All 10 had reliable cars, and 8 out of 10 said they were ready to drive them for the same number of years. Thus, choosing an SUV is not just a matter of taste or brand, it is a strategic decision on which the financial health of the family depends for years to come. If you choose models based on the engineering for decades principle, the owner benefits in 3 ways. He spends less on repairs and insurance, gets more when selling, and relieves himself of the stress associated with unexpected breakdowns. If you succumb to advertising and external gloss, the risk of finding yourself in a situation with a Wrangler or Explorer is extremely high. And here we return to the main point. A reliable car is not an accident or luck. It is a conscious choice that gives confidence in the future.